Welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today I have with me Gabe Hicks.
Heck yeah. My
I
name is
was gonna
Gabe
call
Hicks.
Gabe. Okay. Welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today I have with me Gabe Hicks. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
That's me. I'm Gabe Hicks. You can't see it, but I'm punching the air right now.
I appreciate your level of enthusiasm coming into this
Oh
podcast
no.
recording because that's sometimes what we need. And you kind of have at times, as some people have probably seen in like your TikToks, you have that anime enthusiasm for what you're
Yeah.
doing.
I
Um,
wasn't gonna tell you until we were recording Friday. I've listened to your podcast. As soon as you mentioned it to me, I actually started listening to it because I have recently realized that I liked podcasts, but this is the only like tabletop related podcast that I've been listening to that's not just like people playing a game. And I wanted to say this while we were on air to get your actual reaction so that you know that. But I've listened to I think 6 episodes so far.
don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Like,
Yeah, that's fun.
I am always I'm very surprised when people tell me that. I've had that happen to me before where a guest will come on and they'll say and they don't tell me on air, so I get like the non
Yeah,
I get the measured and business-like reaction of like, "Oh,
yeah,
thank you." But like which I guess I'll say, thank you
yeah.
very much for listening. And honestly, one second, my throat. Honestly, one of the things that I really appreciate more than anything is being able to do this podcast. It's one of my favorite things. It's the thing that makes me the least amount of money, but it's the thing I love the most. I love
Yeah.
having these really in-depth conversations with people.
It's nice when you can sit and speak to someone genuinely and then be able to share that as well. Because people want to be able to experience a conversation sometimes just as an onlooker, which is why we love television and stuff like that. But when you can have people having a true conversation about something they're passionate about and things like this in a medium, it also like it's as weird as it is. Podcasts are a great way to get a chance to talk to someone that you've wanted to talk to and then like just really dive into it in a fully passionate way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really helps me as a project manager a lot of the time when I am finding people that I really like to talk to and I connect with, because then I just want to work with those people, you know? And that actually happened with me and Jeremy Cobb from Three Black Halflings. Like, we connected so much in our podcast that they were like, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" And I was just like, "I would love nothing more, Jerry." I haven't done an actual play in like a year or more because I've been doing my pro GMing thing. But I was so excited to like, and here's the thing, Gabe. Like, here's the thing. I have never been invited to a show. That was my first
Really?
invitation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me the first show I ever did, and shout out to Kayla, because I tell Kayla this, like there was I loved tabletop. I was so intimidated by the space, but there was this very friendly woman online who was like, "You seem excited, and like I like that you're excited about things. Do you want to play on this actual play with us?" And I was like terrified. But she was my biggest cheerleader who didn't know who I was, and I was barely involved in the space. That was like maybe 3 years ago. Time is not real. And like I that first invite, like it changes your world, right? Because it's not even about like how big it is or how grand it is. It's like someone saw me and was like, I want to tell a story with them. And that's gonna live
Yeah.
with me for like
It feels really special. And I was someone who was not new to the actual play space. I'd done some shows, but it was always I put the show together. And
whoa,
yeah, so
yeah.
my shows for Kobold Press, I put them together. I wasn't always the
Yeah.
GM. Like, I had my friend be the GM once, but I was the one who cast everyone, and I was the one who like get everything ready. And I packaged it. Like, for our first Kobold Press show, I shot the pilot on my channel, and like I did everything, and then I presented that as part of like the pilot for Kobold Press, which Chelsea accepted, and then we ran with it. So the first episode of the Empire of the Ghouls playthrough that we did for Kobold Press was actually shot on my channel, and they just brought it over to their channel, and then we ran it with it
Shout
for 2 seasons.
shout out to you for doing what I wish I had done earlier, and I would love to see more people do. You want to be involved in these things, and it isn't happening just a way that other people are making it happen for you. So you did it yourself. Shout out to you for doing that, because that's hard sometimes. Like people are
Yeah,
like, I want this thing to happen, but I would love for other people to do it for me. And you're like, no, I want this thing to happen, and I want it to happen. I don't need to run it, but I want it to happen, so I'm gonna do it. And then it worked.
yeah.
Gosh dang.
It was pretty surreal. One of the other things that I did at that same time was I was watching a D&D Beyond interview with a couple of people. One was the Dark Dice guy. I can't remember his name
Mm,
off the top of my head. And then
yeah.
also Lou Anders, and they were both world builders. And Lou Anders made these the series of children's books like Vikings children's book stories. And it was really a cool story. And I read the kid's book, and then I sort of looked into his setting that he was developing as Thrones and Bones Notengard. And I reached out to Lou, just cold email. Hey, here's my like qualifications. And it was all like Marine Corps shit. And I was like, here's all my qualifications. I'd like to run a show. And we'd like to feature like your setting because I find it to be really interesting and fun. And he was so gracious with his time. He got on a call with me and he walked me through the PDF and like the world. And this was not out yet. It was like I was like one of the first people to see it. And then he sent it to me and he supported me in a ways that were really helpful for me. And then I put my show together with like Luander's help, and there's so many people where I was just like, I'd really like to do something, and I reached out to them and I tried to be as professional as possible in like trying to get it done, and they just helped me. And Lou Anders and Chelsea Dot Steverson and Jasmine Bueller and like all of these people that I ended up connecting with over the course of that first year, and then M. Ebel were just so incredibly helpful in my professional development in the space. I still sometimes forget, like, I started the Vineyard officially 1 year ago from right now, time of recording, March 1 year ago, 2022. It had started in my brain probably a year prior to that when I first was running my actual play show with it as the setting, and then it sort of developed from there. So I don't know. I'm a leap first, ask questions later kind of person. So sometimes it gets me in trouble. Like I will just like go and overcommit, and that's my problem. Now I have to figure out how to commit less to stuff.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Oh,
For you, and let's talk about TikTok because this is something I've not
deal.
talked with anybody except for Katiosaurus. I did talk to Katiosaurus
Yeah.
about TikTok a little bit. What's your experience been like with TikTok? How did it get going? And then what do you think mostly about TikTok now in sort of the rear view of like you sort of being a pretty big presence on TikTok?
TikTok is people give TikTok a hard time. Like TikTok is a cursed place. TikTok is a weird place. The internet is a weird place. That's all entirely relative. It's all going to be like that. And I went into TikTok thinking like, dang, I just want to make short videos that are fun for me. And TikTok is a place where TikTok is a good example of like me not picking a lane because on TikTok I post cosplay stuff, I post like tabletop stuff, I post like D&D specific stuff or Pathfinder stuff. I stunt work on TikTok, and I also post thirst traps. I know who I am. I accept it. And the funniest thing about TikTok is that having that variety of stuff on there, I love when people come for one thing and then stay for the rest of it. And it's the funniest thing to me at this point is like people who recognize me from TikTok. Out favorite thing to ask is, what's the video you recognize me from? Because the answers are always different. Some people are like,
Yeah.
oh, the Hal Pendragon. Someone's like, oh, the creepy jester. Someone's like, oh, the mimic hearts. And someone's like, you were shirtless in the woods. I'm like, there it is.
I'm gonna be honest. Recently, I think it was a few months ago, right? You started going back to the gym, or you started going to the gym, and I don't know how much of this was real or not. Are you for real? You never went to the gym, like
Right, Friday, truth, I go to the gym once a month, maybe. It's unfair. It's
res-
unreasonable. I'm aware.
respectfully, Gabe? Fuck you.
I said that. And someone's like, Gabe, it's because you climb trees for fun. I'm like, that doesn't. All right, I guess that counts.
No,
I
no, no.
guess
You're
that.
very
Yeah,
physical in your life.
yeah,
Yeah. So you're very fit. That makes sense.
yeah.
You're just following a different path, but like your diet must be great. I would assume that you just take care
Sure.
of yourself. Oh, fuck you. No.
There's there
No.
Friday. There are dumplings on a plate right here. There is like an oatmeal container and some passion fruit gummies. I'm I don't I drink so much water.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
You know,
It's the
I'm a
water.
problem. Yeah, it is. But so TikTok is a weird place. I am potentially an outlier, so take this with a grain of salt. But I also think that there are definitely bits of advice that influencers and creators of all sorts will give you of like, here's the way to beat the algorithm, here's the way to work against the algorithm, here's the way to make it work for you. And if that's not working for you, try something else. Like, try unorthodox things, post at weird times. Don't like it, post the same video in a couple different ways, like re-record it and then do it in like 2 or 3 versions and then post them, and one of those might do better. If
Yeah.
the strategy that someone is telling you is not working and they say that's the best way to do it, that's the best way to do it for them. I have a
Hmm.
really good or bad habit of like posting at like midnight or 2 in the morning and then just like posting without captions. And I'll even like type in the description, I didn't put captions on this. So if you see this, you're cursed. Sorry. And as weird as it is, when it's like a caption like that, people are like, "Oh, I'm cursed." They're like, "Oh, wow, I'm cursed," and they'll reply to it. Them replying makes it more visible,
Yeah.
and posting at inopportune times is again a grain of salt, kind of stupid because inopportune times is not a work like a global thing. An inopportune time for someone on the East Coast in the US might be an opportune or ideal time for someone in England. And that is how you expand your audience. I don't have just a US based audience, which I've accepted, because I post at demon hours in the US and those people across the pond are awake.
Yeah, yeah,
And they're like,
absolutely.
oh no, Gabe, we're awake. We saw it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna delete this in 2 hours. And then I delete it in 2 hours. But then like the UK people are like, oh Gabe, now we saw. Nice socks, by the way. I'm like, shut up. So
um,
TikTok has been a great place just to like throw out ideas, and TikTok has become one of the best places to get people excited about something and then talk about it on like Twitter or Instagram or somewhere else.
yeah, absolutely. It's a very spontaneous place. It seems like I'm kind of an outsider, like looking in, and I feel like most of the advice I've seen around that wasn't necessarily like social strategy, but it's mostly just like the algorithm is going to hate you no matter what you try to do. So like you might as well
That's
just like
true.
say fuck it and just like do what you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it works better. Like TikTok is going to be a real hard place to make money directly through TikTok. But if you use TikTok to send people to other places where you make money, that's when you're going to do well. If you have a Kickstarter and you have a link to your Kickstarter in your TikTok bio, people will often click your bio to see what other videos you have, and they're like, "Oh, there's a Kickstarter link. What's that?" Or if like you have a link tree or like an itch.io, and people you look, yeah, the links in my bio, you can go to that thing. People will click that, go there, people will go to other places, or people will be like, I saw this on TikTok, on any other social media site. As soon as
Yeah.
people started recognizing me from TikTok in real life, I'm like, damn, I guess this does work.
Yeah, that must be different. Do you cosplay at conventions at all or no?
I do. I cosplay at conventions all the time. The funniest thing is like my local Ren fair. I get recognized at my local Ren fair now, like every couple weeks, and it's like almost exclusively from TikTok. And there was one time when someone was like, "You like are you cosplaying that jester dude from TikTok?" No, that's me. And it was just the funniest thing because it was like a random D&D creature and like encounter that I wrote, and I'm like, I want a creature that is both celestial and fiend, so that when the paladin uses divine sense, they feel like something is wrong. And that blew up in ways that I was like, why do people like this? I just wanted to be like the Joker if he wasn't abusive.
Yeah,
And
like Gremlin hour energy all the time.
truly 24
Yeah.
hour gremlin hours.
I do think it's kind of fascinating sometimes because I am connected to quite a few people who are TikTokers, and one of the things that is sort of prevalent in the space is ADHD, of course.
Yes.
And the creators who are ADHD creators are it's like I don't know, like 5 to 1, I think, like ADHD to not ADHD for TikTok creators, and people who consume TikTok. So it's kind of interesting for me to have that going in and really that understanding of like, okay, this person operates in this particular way that now that I understand a little bit more about it, or now that I have sort of an awareness of how
Yeah.
they operate, I can work better with that person, because then I know that I really just need to work to try and get this person's attention. And then once I have their attention, we're going to be talking for like 3 hours to figure this project out, and then we're going to hammer it out. And then I'm going to be there to at least provide the stopgaps for like project management, so that this person knows, hey, here's where we're going to sit down, and I'm going to be there to support you, or someone else is going to be there to support you to get you through that work, because I know it's hard for you to focus. But once we get you going, I'm going to love your work.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. And that TikTok has been a really fun place to find people to collaborate with, and like just people who inspire me with their storytelling or cosplay or any of that, and people who have worked so hard to build an audience. And sometimes I feel so out of place because I didn't join TikTok to have an audience. I was like, I just want to make fun, weird videos, and I just want to dress like a silly man and use audios where they're not going to get takedown by DMCA because they're already
Yeah.
publicly listed. And then my TikTok audience grew, and I was like, what the hell do I do with my TikTok is not monetized. Don't ever plan to monetize it. I don't think that TikTok would make me enough to want to monetize it. And
Yeah.
I don't want that tax documentation for making $12.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, give me your fucking $12. That's like I have actually gotten a sales commission check for like $6 or something once. And it was like after I'd like left the job or whatever, and it was finally funneling through. There's a lot of commission-based sales places that are, once they're super corporate enough, they just like find ways to pay people less through like the red tape that they put through commissions. And I think TikTok is one of those places. But like I've worked in those sales jobs where like the commission is so astronomically low for everyone except for like the top one or two earners, and you're just like, how long does this person worked in the industry to get to that place? And in the case of my previous employment that I only worked for, I think like 6 to 9 months after I got out of the military, the top earners was like two different people who'd been working in that industry for literally 20 years. And I'm just like, they are making a living wage, like they are making $100,000 or whatever to support a family if they're a single earner, right, for the household. But like everyone else is making just above minimum wage, and I'm just like, there's nowhere in between. So this is
Nope.
clearly wrong, first of all. And then it's really shitty, to be honest. And I get frustrated with a lot of the corporate structures in place that really reinforce that kind of behavior. And no wonder. And I say that, can I ask, how old are you, Gabe?
29.
Okay.
You know what, Friday? It's an exclusive scoop. I have never told anyone in an interview how old I was because no one's ever asked. People
Wow.
think that I'm 25. People think that I'm 35. I'm
Yeah.
29. I will be 30 in May.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. So this will probably come out in May, so you'll probably
Hell
be
yeah.
just
Oh,
just breaching the 30.
hell
Maybe
yeah.
we'll premiere it on your birthday or something.
That's fine by me. But if you premiered on my birthday, know that when I hit 30, all the shame that I had left, I feel it evaporating out of my skin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's just one of those things that like once, and I'm 35, I'll be 36
What?
this year, and it's HRT, it's a performance enhancing drug. Like um
Jesus.
yeah,
Damn.
I've like de-aged in the last 2 years since I've been on HRT. I've been on
God
HRT 18
damn.
months now, but yeah, so I think that after 30, especially, like you let go of a lot of the stuff that you thought previously was important, and then you're just like it's a different perspective to have, especially as you advance either in your career or your profession. And for you, I think you have sort of done a little bit of everything, and like I think moving forward for you, especially in your 30s, I'm really excited for you and to see what you're doing in the next decade. I think that's going to be
God.
amazing, and I think you have a lot of possibilities
I'm just
with
so excited to make things, and like I'm not afraid to make things that aren't perfect anymore. Because also the idea I had in my head of perfect is just so out there. But like I wanna make things, and if people enjoy it, great. And if people don't enjoy it, I finished the thing. And then I can work on more of the things that people really enjoyed. But in the past 3 years, I have oh God. I have been a creative producer. I have been a game designer. I've been a senior game designer. I have been 27 published products.
oh my
I have
god. Oh
I
shit. Ah!
I have written a kids book that comes out in June. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, I
Oh,
wrote a kid's guide to tabletop role playing games. Comes out in June. It'll be in Barnes and Noble, Target,
oh my
Walmart.
God.
I know what the hell.
What? Oh my God.
Um,
How have I, do you have anything to show for, to like
oh,
share?
yeah, I will send you
Okay.
some early stuff that you can see.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be great. I would love to see it.
and it's got interviews from like Justin Armin, Jennifer
Yeah.
Kretschmer, Banana
Oh my
Chan.
God. That's so cool.
And it was like it was one of my favorite things. I think it's my favorite thing I've done that is out currently. Well, that is public and known about, not out currently, because like it was just writing something. I was like I wrote the book that I wish I had read when I
Yeah.
was younger to just start making stuff because I'm like, oh, I can't make these things. I can't make these games. And I'm like, wait, no, I can do this. Oh my god, wait, kids can do this. I wish kids did this because when kids do this now and then they're older, they're like making this stuff and they're not worried about how to publish this thing. They're not worried about like, oh, I'm not a big enough presence. They're just gonna make stuff and then I get to play those games. Then I just get to be the one who plays their games. And I get to look. I'll make a.
It's selfish.
I'll
Really. It's in full
yes.
circle. It's selfish. It's for
It
you.
truly is. I want to be well enough that I can make like one or two games a year and then sit and then I can just play the games that all of those other people are making. That's my dream.
Oh my
Table
gosh.
top.
I'm like
Damn.
thinking about this and I'm like tearing up a little bit because like I know that like you send me that stuff and like when it comes out, I'm gonna read that to my children.
Yo.
I have a my oldest is turning 8 this year.
Oh yeah.
My middle child is 5 and then my youngest is like 2. And oh my
Alright, I'll
gosh,
send you a
that's so
copy.
cool. Yeah, I
I'll
would
send you a
love to.
copy.
I would love that. That would be so great. I'm so excited. Especially because like my oldest is getting into art. Really likes DBZ, of course, and like just draws like Sonic and like DBZ like comics.
Hell yeah.
And my yeah, and my son is very just interested in like creating stuff, and he's sort of geared that way. He likes mechanical things like engineering and how things work, and then also he's very interested in like creating artistic stuff. He's great. I love all my children, but like, you know, he's at that age where he can start expressing himself creatively. It's so cool to
Yeah.
see.
What? Kids are so kid there's a lot to learn from kids. And look, talking to kids, like my niece, so interesting because kids ask the question like talking to my niece has given me some of the best design things I thought of. She was like, Gabe, why is the sky? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you the answer to that. And then I explained like the science. But what if it wasn't like that? Oh,
Oh,
huh.
oh shit.
What? What if? Well, hold on. She's like, well, but what if it was? What if the color made it red and then blue was bad? So the sky being blue meant that everything was bad. I'm like, stop it. I can't. I can't right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Alternate
these
plate of existence, and just so
yeah.
like I
I think that's the same
never.
thing with new players to a system. They ask the best
Yes.
questions because they don't
Yo.
have a framework to work with. But with
Yes.
children, they question everything
Yep.
and they're open to the responses. And then if
Yes.
they are taught to have an open mind, and you know, the mother of my children is such a wonderful parent. She's very patient with my children and explaining things. So
Yeah.
they're infinitely curious, which can be annoying sometimes, but it's this like
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like I need to have the patience for that because then otherwise what it turns into if you're not patient with children in their curiosity is like they become very
Shuts them
jaded
down.
people, I think, you know,
Yep.
and they just like they don't want to be curious anymore and they just accept things as they are. But that's
Yeah.
not, I think, the best way to raise children is my opinion. But anyway,
Yeah.
off the topic. But yeah.
I don't even know how we
Um
got here. I wrote a bunch of things and I've just been very proud and excited. I mean, yes, the age. I'm excited for this next decade. I'm excited for the next couple years. I think it'll come out this year, but I did a thing last week that we won't reference, but we talked about a little bit. I think is actually one of the biggest things that I've done in my career. And like when I went into it, I wasn't nervous. I was just excited. And when I walked away from it, I was like, that was some of the most fun I've had in months. And I was just happy. And there was no low from it. It was just like, damn, I like this stuff. I enjoy this stuff. I'm a very I am not a confident person. I am an incredibly shy, not confident person. I try really hard to not project that, but oh my god, I got like I was out with some people yesterday and we were like taking like pictures for a thing and they wanted me to like stand on a table and I got nervous to stand on a table for them to take a picture of me. I am a shy bench. But I finally hit a point where I'm like, I'm kind of proud of myself. And like I had to learn the difference of like being humble versus like allowing yourself to be proud of the fact that like when you're doing something you can be happy versus like no, don't like yell about your achievements. Internalize them, be happy, and then move forward. So I used to like do that for like so long versus like someone that I worked with was like, no, Gabe, you can be excited that people are excited about your work. And I'm like, what? I'm 29 years old. No one besides my parents has said that to me. So like this dude saying that to me like flipped a switch. I would have felt like people have taped down for so long.
Yeah.
Wow, that got
I
deep.
yeah, I no, I totally agree. I have that like bit of, and this is something that I definitely learned in the Marine Corps. It was like a
Mm.
compensation thing, and it was very involved with gender, but we won't get into that. I've talked about my gender a lot on this podcast. I don't know if you've noticed, but we just ended up
I
talking about
have
it.
Friday. I'm a listener.
No, you know my gender issues. Okay, so yeah, and it's really just like you try to harness like that nervousness as excitement instead of nervousness for me,
Sure.
and me just being like enthusiastic and trying to be open to criticism at the same time, where I focus and I just do my best and then I accept what I've done, and then I'm just at peace with that because that's where I'm at in my life. And I know that the writing that I do a year ago is not going to be as good as the writing that I'm going to do this year. And it's just going to get better over time. And a lot of these opportunities that have been afforded to me, I've really had a lot of great opportunities to be mentored by these more experienced people that are helping me improve. So, like, at the same time, it's like if I ever am too confident in what I'm doing, then I'm going to stop improving. I'm going to stop I'm going to stop hitting these benchmarks where I like can clearly see my writing when I started the Vineyard project and now where it's at right now. And it's like just it's just gotten so much better because I've had so much feedback from one of the best in the business through M and like all these other writers that I've been working with, and sort of understanding the process better. And understanding the process better really just comes with work. And doing
Yeah.
the work should be celebrated as much as
Yes.
getting, the accolades of the work. I,
Yeah.
of course, would love it if we won awards for the book or anything else that
Yeah.
we're doing. I would love it. First and foremost, I need people to get paid.
Yep.
And then
And it's fun. And like there's a difference when someone's making something and like they care about the people as much as they care about the product, which that makes like that's what makes me buy in. If someone's like, "All right, we're making this thing and you all got to do this. All right, I'll see you in a month." I'm like, "But I don't know how this works." Versus like you've made every effort to talk through as much as you can, to be as available as you can, but not feeling like you're leaning over people's shoulders to figure out every choice that they're making. You're there to their left if they have a question, but you're there to their left and you are not hovering. And like even if like an award doesn't come from the book from an external source, I'd be shocked if you didn't hear back about how good of an experience some people had just in early stages. Like even us talking here, if I didn't enjoy working with you in Vineyard, which was the like
oh
the
no.
prime chance that we've gotten to do it, like to be honest, this conversation probably wouldn't have happened. But like because it's been such a good experience and talking with you is genuine and easy and sincere, it's like, oh yeah, I'd happily make some time to talk to Friday. That's fun. That's something that I enjoy. I don't have the patience to do things I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah, you reach that point where you're just like, I'm not saying you're like rich, but that's the equivalent of like fuck it money, like,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
fuck you
Yep.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that
I've
point.
I've made enough to like pay my bills for the next few months. I'm not rolling, but also I live in the East Coast. my apartment ain't expensive. So like
Yeah.
I'm chilling and I'm not gonna hustle until I have to. I but I tried to
I'm
I
not
had a
gonna
very
hustle
good
till I have to. Wow.
I had
Okay.
a very good conversation with my mom, and I'm like, I don't want to hustle. I don't want to feel like I have to hustle. Some people tell me that I have to hustle, and I don't want to. And my mom's like, Gabe, my mom told me that I only have to do two things, and I'm gonna tell you the same. You only have to do two things: be black and eventually die. And it's like, you know what? Maybe I don't have to hustle. You're right. All right, good.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I'm
Uh,
like, shit. You know what? She's right.
is that the podcast title? Is that
Hell
the
yeah. I'm here for it. Gabe Hicks. I don't have to do two things. Be black and eventually die. And
Wow.
it was so mind-blowing because I keep putting this idea of like this is stuff that I have to do. This is stuff that I have to get done. This is stuff that like I have to do so I can exist in this space. And then I'm like, why do I think that? Because other people told me that I have to do that. Are these people that have my interests in mind? Are these people that want me to do the things that they did it? Are these people thinking they're giving me helpful advice, but in truth, it's not necessarily applicable? And I'm like, are these people who would do it the way that I would do it? And when I realized how often it was like, oh, none of this isn't applicable to me. This is just the way that I've seen it. I was like, I'm not going to do it their way. And now I have a 3-bedroom apartment to myself while living on the East Coast and having been on Dimension 20, written for Darrington Press, then a sponsored cosplay for Critical Role, have been a senior game designer for Steamforged Games, have written on the Transformers, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe RPG, have written on the Dark Souls RPG, have written for MCDM multiple times, have worked with Global Press. And I'm like, maybe I don't have to do it their way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value to that, and we're gonna get to talking about your company, your
Oh,
LLC.
yeah.
It's LLC, right?
Yes, it
Um,
is.
okay, cool. We'll
I
get to
like
talking
limited
about that.
liability.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the liability where people can't sue you and then they put you out is just like your company goes under instead, which is nice. It's nice to have
Yep.
that. But let's talk about. I did want to briefly touch on like your experiences at Dimension 20. What you think?
Yeah.
What were the some of the more challenging aspects for you? I know they have a
Yeah.
really tight like shooting window, and like it's a whole professional production. So I'm very curious
Yeah.
about your thoughts from that and like what were your takeaways?
Yeah. Dimension 20 was a really well refined process, and it really improved my concept of what it means to pre record and then put something out, because then you get to give that much more safety and space to the people that you're playing with. With live performances, people have a like perspective where they need to act big and bold in ways as it is a performance that people are embracing right now, and then trying to get the crowd to react versus like a pre-recorded performance where you can act big and bold, but you actually have an extra safety net where if you do cross a boundary with someone, people don't feel like they're stopping a live production to speak for themselves. And as safe as it should be, that can still be hard. There's plenty of times when like I've been on a live show where I'm like, I don't love the way this is going, but I feel self-conscious about saying something because everyone else is so happy. Versus like pre-recorded, it's significantly easier to do that. They are a wild editing machine. I would love if Dimension 20 episodes were longer, personally, because when you're editing down, one of the hardest things is knowing what didn't make it in there when it feels like there's so much good. I was like, I would dream of having a director's cut of some of the Shriek Week stuff, because to me, some of the best stuff wasn't stuff that made it in just because of like cutting for time or like trying to make a transition. When you are working with a company in that sense, they're always going to have like a basis of where they want to lean it. And it's very interesting because my storytelling style is so heavily unscripted that having more of a script that you're going with is something that I can adapt to. But I also like I prefer not to. I prefer not to because then it gives more agency to the people at my table with me. When you have such a limited amount of time and you're leaning towards the way a story has to go, it feels to me that unintentionally you take a little bit away from the table and feeling like it's everyone's story. It's that, okay, I've got this 6 episode story that you all are going to be experiencing, versus getting everyone when you have a little bit of a longer aspect or a little bit of a more like open-ended situation. It can be like, okay, like I want to focus on you this time, I want to focus on you that time. it feels a little bit easier to give everyone their highlights when you have a production that's a little bit longer and a little bit less focused around it has to be this kind of experience that
Yeah.
also already hasn't been written.
Yeah, that's definitely a style of storytelling that I think more resembles a Matthew Mercer than in that
Yes.
case, right? So it's like that collaborative storytelling where he's built his setting, but he's ready to
Yeah.
react and go where they go. And you
Yep.
see sometimes in those stories that they tell on their show where Matt clearly has dropped like a plot hook he wishes that they would take, but then they
Yep.
just go the opposite direction and just like,
And
well,
he's like,
they did
well,
it again.
yep. And
Yeah, I guess I guess
I love working with them. It's not even a criticism, but good lord, the fan bases are always so weird. I remember hearing crap from people about like, why isn't Brennan on this season? Where's Brennan? And I'm like, y'all, to no fault of their own, it is just like the best way to make someone feel like shit. If you're like, okay, I see you're here, but like, where's my favorite white guy? I'm like, I don't know,
yeah.
making money somewhere else.
That's yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry.
I appreciate it. It used to bother me a little bit, and then eventually it stopped in the same way because I had met and spoken to so many people who were like younger or older queer individuals who were so excited about it and were like, I've never had a show that was like queer and trans and just fluid friendly or like feel so seen or like so many characters that like engaged me in a way that I felt seen. And even if that was like a minority of people who were excited about it, as a minority myself, I'm like, you know what? I don't need everyone to be happy or love what I do. If it meant a lot to these few people, like that's great. That's awesome. That's what matters to me. The people who want me to be someone else aren't the people who wanted Gabe in the first place. And if you don't want Gabe in the first place, the internet's a wide place. Go anywhere else. But then if you come back, and I remember names because I'm basically Arya Stark, if you come back with some nasty nonsense trying to say, oh, I've been your fan. No, I saw what you said. Go somewhere else. I don't need you. I don't need you. But these beautiful buff lesbians that been in my corner all day, we're going out to brunch. Let's go, girls.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. As a buff lesbian, right? Well, I'm bisexual, but like as a buff gay myself,
Oh
I
yeah.
I approve this message. I think
Yeah.
genuinely I think that's where some of the best art comes out of too. It's like what's
Oh
the
my
passion
God.
project? What are the cult classics? They aren't stuff
Yeah.
that like people took to and really loved because it's not widespread appeal because widespread appeal means that it's very familiar and only has a little bit different. But
Yeah.
if it's a cult classic, that is because it is something that is so different that it could not have widespread appeal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think there's obviously a fine line between that and just creating something that is like cringe or like not good, right? But like to create like something boldly in a new category that doesn't have a widespread audience, that's like the true form of like being just an artist in any medium, whether you be a performer or a writer or like, you know, any sort of did I say artist? They're in there too.
Yeah.
Drawing artist, like the traditional. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's something to recognize and then be okay with. And for the same reason that indie games are really just in that sort of same vein where it's like you have people who have sort of designed only indie games and maybe have appeared as contributors in other ways, but a bulk of their work is indie games, like your Gion Shims, your Banana Chans, and like some of these people who have really just carved out like I just make weird little games, and you know people either like them or they don't like them. Even if they don't like them, a lot of the time because they have worked and refined like their voice and what they are trying to do, and it's coming from such a pure place. You can look at it just as a piece of art. Even if you don't like the game, you still buy
It's
it
true.
because you're like, I want to look at this and I want to read it and I want the experience of reading this and having some sort of connection to what the creator was thinking.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. So it's totally different than like what we have to do as marketers or as like you know what we're trying to do like when we're trying to sell product. But like I think there's some like and I can't remember who said this, but like there's some movies you do like if you're an actor, there's some movies you do to pay the bills And then and that allows you the time to do the indie project that you
Yep.
really are passionate about. Like,
That's true. And I what I mentioned before, the project that I did recently is like, if everything that I did is part of what got me to that point, plus just being a decent person, like all of that other stuff was worth it. It was worth it because I was happy, and it wasn't even about, regardless of time or energy or payment, like I left that feeling, and that was so rewarding and so reinvigorating. After it, that's the happiness from something like that is what like helps really push the burnout back, because then it's like it was work. It was something that I worked and got paid for, but like it would be like doing a drag show. Yes, I'm getting tips. It's
yeah.
great. And also I get to dance and sing and be the baddest possible. And like if you can love the stuff that you do, even when you're tired afterwards, if you feel invigorated, that it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of feeling invigorated, let's talk about the bromance between you and Lord Balvin on
Oh
Shikar,
yeah, that's
which
my
I
homie.
which I did not bring up in our topics. It is okay if you don't want to talk about Shikar, but I
No, I'm gonna
wanted the
do
real
it.
reaction here.
I love it. Balvin is like the person I didn't know of at all when Shakar started. And now
Hmm.
that's my brother. That's my homie. That I talk to that dude like every other week. And if we don't talk for like 3, 4 weeks, like we know we're good. I'll hit him up at like 2 in the morning. He'll up me up at like 3 in the morning. Then we might play games until 7. Then we might
Yeah,
not talk for another month. But that's my guy. And
that's so
we've only
cool.
even hung out in person like 2, 3 times. But I remember the second time we hung out, we were like walking down the street at like 1:30 in the morning after like one of the weirdest fucking nights we've had in a long time. And we're like, yo, are we high? Did all of that happen? And I'm like, we can never like tell anyone in detail about this. You know that,
Yeah,
right? He's like, that's true. But
yeah.
but we know. Or like and it's just like it I've I only have sisters. I have never had a brother. I love that man. That man,
Hmm.
that oh my god. I would never commit a crime for him.
Wink.
Yes.
That's how I feel about my relationship with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Little red dot. We smoked weed in her car at 4 a.m. at Gen Con.
Hell yeah.
Saturday, and she was I'm gonna spill her tea, but she had a show at like 7 or something, and she was late,
Huh?
so she like someone came and woke her up, and then like she ran to the stage or whatever,
Powerful.
and changed in the backstage before she
Hell
went on for a
yeah.
live show. What's it been like for you doing Shikar for so long? First of all, it's your longest game, right? Um,
Yeah.
and what's it
I've
been
never
like?
played in a D&D game this long.
Yeah, what's it been like for you playing in a story for that long? And then what's it been like between you and you're developing, like, not in a personal sense, but like in a sort of pseudo professional sense with you and Jasmine, and how that's developed, and like what sort of things are unique between a relationship and the GM and the player that have been playing together that long?
Whoa. Shikar is the longest game I've ever been in. I think it's like we're nearing 3 years. We maybe I think we just hit 2 years. That like the going from level 1 to level like 7. That is the it's I now finally understand how people can say it like took them like 3 years to get to like level 10. I finally understand. But it has really made me look into how this game is played. It has really taught me to like figure out ways to make the game more fun. One of the best things about Jasmine is a very like yes and DM, where if we want to do something cool, we want to do something anime, we want to do something wild, we do it. And if we want to like figure out or like reset the tone or like talk about what kind of tone we're going to have for this game, we do it. And we don't just do it once, we don't just do it twice. We do that like every month, every other month, because the tone might shift as we feel differently or as like the story starts going differently. And like that's my family. I'll I'll fight somebody for those people. Like playing with Jasmine has I barely knew Jasmine before Shakar. We knew each other from Motherlands, and we had been in one call before we started playing on Shakar. And now Jasmine is someone that I see like basically every Tuesday. I have hung out with. I mentioned this on stream, so I feel bad about it. Like after like a long day in a party, like I made sure Jasmine got home and I tucked her into bed. recently, and it really made a good precedent for like comfortable a game can and should be if you feel like you can trust the person who's facilitating the story, because then it's like there's plenty of situations where I'm like, I don't know how I either feel nothing about this character, so I don't feel like I'm losing anything when something goes wrong, or it's like I feel strongly about this character, so I'm very like restrictive about what I share about this character. But with Jasmine, it's been like, hey, yo, Bronze, I want you to make me feel trauma. And I'm like, I like hate trauma in my games. But now that like I'm playing with people, and especially like a GM who I can trust, understand my boundaries and wants and ask me about that, I'm like, oh no, like tear me up. Like I want a god mom who died because I had to kill her. And then she was like, okay, but like, I love that and I'm here for it. How can I turn that up to like 11? I'm like, take it up to 30. Take it up to 30. And she did. And it fucked me up. And it's great. It really goes to show that like some level of trust in the person facilitating is so important. Even if it's someone that you don't know, and if it's a stranger trying to potentially come out of your comfort zone and still give them a little bit of trust with this story, because if you can't trust them to have a good experience with them, this is not going to be a good experience for either of you. And Bronze really set that precedent. She is truly one of the most caring storytellers that I've gotten to play with, who goes out of her way to make sure that we are seen, comfortable, and safe. Even though it is her world, she has made it very clear that it is our story. It is our story. It is our table. She's never projected that she feels above us in any way, goes hella out of her way to remind us of that all the time. And
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, like pretty dope sometimes, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a wonderful experience working with Jasmine myself, for different reasons, much different relationship,
Yeah.
more of a work relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things that I really noticed, and she says this all the time on social media in the subtext of her tweets, but like Jasmine is not a nice person. Jasmine is a kind person, in my opinion. So
Yes.
like, Jasmine will 100%, like, you come in with some head ass takes, like she'll just be like, you're a dipshit, like,
Yep.
and she'll just like
She
eviscerate
turns into
you.
a mom so fast. There was someone who said something that was like a little offhand about me, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. She's like, I do, I do. And she like went up. She's
Yeah.
like, I will not let you speak to my friends. And she went full Desi mom so
Yeah.
fast, and I'm like, well, you shouldn't have messed with her kids.
Yeah,
Damn.
honestly, she's 100% that way. It broke my heart to like not be able to work with her anymore because I was too busy,
Yeah.
and it really kind of broke me up. This is something that I haven't really brought up to her, but and I am looking forward to potentially working with her again in the future, but she is doing so much shit that like I don't know when
God.
that could ever happen, but like yeah.
I try to help when I can, but she like the Desi Quest stuff
Hmm.
and just all of the other things that she's writing on, and then just like trying to create more shows and then
Yeah.
managing the full-time streaming. It's like
Hmm.
mind blowing.
I think, and I'm very excited to see all of the stuff that she's doing and stuff that she's mentioned to me, like, hey, I'm working on this thing, and I could tell she was really passionate about it. And I'm just like, yes, Jasmine, yes, yes, do the things you want to do. And I'm very excited in these next 2 years, I think, where she's going to start like creating like a much larger presence for herself on the things that she is really passionate about, and people can finally start to see her for the incredible storyteller that she is. I would, put her up there with, Brennan and Matt Mercer, if not like, a little bit above in some aspects. I think there's something she
Yeah.
does better than both of them, and she's really great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what she's doing, and seeing like I would last comment about Shakar from me. You can talk about Shakar as much as you want, but last comment about Shakar from me. Best pre-game chat of any
Oh my
show
God.
out there. If you
It's
don't even
it's
want to
so
watch the live
unhinged.
play, just listen to the
Yeah.
first 10 minutes of every episode on YouTube because that shit is so funny.
It's so unhinged every time. And like every time I show up, I'm like, yo, Gabe, all right, Gabe, this time, keep yourself on lock. Keep yourself on lock. Be calm, and then just someone else gets started, and I'm like, well, you know what? Like they fire me up so fast. I'm like, usually I'm like, nah, other people ain't gonna get me worked up, like, and in a good way. But like this group, it's like they awaken something in me. And shout out to Balvin, who's a gay on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, honorary gay. Yeah.
Yeah, honorary gay on Tuesdays. Yeah, no, I love.
Oh jeez.
It's fun, and it's a comfort game, and it's a home game. I would never tell them directly. I've turned down so many things on Tuesdays just because I'm like, nah, that's my
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I don't. I you can tell me that it's like great, but unless you paying me racks and racks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then and I figure out a way to keep Chicago on a different day, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Tuesdays are sacred to me for that reason. Ew. I hope none of them hear this.
I don't know. I don't think any of them listen, so I think we're good.
Yeah, if they do, they're beautiful. But if they don't, they're trash. Oh damn! Someone else is gonna hear this and send it to them. Looking at you, Xander. You're whack. I don't mean it.
If you want to come on the podcast, Sandra, I would love it. But
That's
anyway,
true. Yeah, Xander. How you doing,
but yes.
Xander?
So I know Balvin would tell me no, but
Ooh, Balvin. Really, Balvin? How you gonna be like that? I would love to hear Balvin talk to you. I would love. Hold on, I'm gonna text him later. This
So
is not
what
a
am I going to
bit.
talk to Balvin about? Oh, actually,
Anything.
I know what I'm going to talk to Balvin. I'm going to talk to Balvin about GTARP because I'm
Ooh, he
curious
got
about that.
stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to talk to Balvin about GTARP and some of the weird shit that he knows about that's happened.
I've made so many problems. They're GTA.
Your mic isn't even picking you up. You're laughing so hard. Just give
I
me a
have
second.
made so many problems in the GTA RP server because I joined the game and I told Balvin that I wanted to make a villain, and I don't feel bad talking about this now because I don't think I'm gonna play that character when we come back. But there was I was like, I wanted to make a villain that was like akin to like the Joker in sense and just make people like so confused and concerned. So I
Yeah.
started like going by the name Malice, and I put on
Uh-huh.
like a mask, and I was staying on roofs, and I was like taking shots at people and scaring them, and then I was like saying like then people like there was like a social media, it's like basically like a fake Twitter, as people were posting about like, oh, Malice thinks they're gonna do shit, I'm gonna come take him out. And so I had said like, oh, I'm coming for you, and then I put on my character's normal clothes, who his identity was the son of the judge of the city, and he went to like
Wow.
the burger shop where everyone was, and then like everyone was like, oh, like, who is this Malice dude? And then someone got hit by a car, and they were like, oh my god, I think that was Malice. So I went around the corner. I walked around the corner, pulled out my phone, and tweeted, yeah, next time don't stand in front of my car. And then I came back out, and they're like, oh my god, that was Malice. It's a manhunt. So then we went on like literally 8 of us went on a manhunt for Malice. And what I discovered is you can log out of your phone and log into a different account. So what they was like, okay, everyone open up your social medias and make a post saying who you are. So I logged out of my Malice account and logged into the other one to post as if I was someone else. And I spent in-game days tormenting these people Friday, to the point where I had a copycat killer that was pretending to be me.
Oh my god. Oh, that's deep. Oh my
Oh
god.
god.
That's like an
Yes,
entire weekend, at least, like where you're just like no life in this game, huh?
it was fucking
Damn.
great. And they were like, who is Malice? Who, and to this day, only like, unless someone else who knows listen to, until this day, only Balvin knew. And Balvin sent me a message. There was a text like in real life. He's like, you're a menace. You know what you did? You know what you did?
I can predict, like, or I can guess what Balvin's total would have been too. Just been like, you're a menace.
100%. And I'm like, no, Balvin, I'm Malice. God, I've never talked about that either. What a power trip. Oh.
Yeah, that was that's special though. That's really cool. That's one of those great stories that like you really hope for in those role playing
Yes.
games.
Yes.
When they're so
He's
community
a good
involved.
role player. Like
Yeah.
Chikar's his first D&D game, but Balvin is good at role playing. He commits to a character, he builds a backstory,
Yeah.
he leans into it, and he commits to his character. Ajax has gone through so much, and like Ajax, like there was like emotional growth that happened consistently, or like Balvin was noting that like Ajax's disposition was different because he's broken up or shy or
Yeah.
upset, or like he's experiencing some grief from something, or like he can't process it. So yeah, I'm gonna shame Balvin
I'm
into
gonna
coming to talk about it.
I'm gonna say straight up, Balvin's character has made me cry before. Like
Me fucking too.
I've been teary-eyed and I've cried a little bit because Ajax has such a powerful story in Shikar. But yeah, I'm so impressed by Balvin's ability, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's doing in the space. I know he has or I think he has like a normal job, and then like he has like he does this as like, you know, his fun. That's why he streams it like
Yeah.
at Gremlin hours.
Yes, he does.
But yeah, and he's so funny. He's like I couldn't say enough about like what I like about Balvin, but like he's such a
Me
great sense
too.
of humor. Seems like in my opinion, and I've said this to some other men in my life, like kind of like you in a lot of ways, in that like there's some men that sort of like really through their circumstance really embrace like toxic masculinity in which they're
Yeah.
afraid
Yeah.
of what other people think and what their expectations of what masculinity is. Men like you and like Balvin are not afraid of that.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
are the man that you are. And
Yeah.
I think that's so important for men to sort of embrace, and like, especially when there's so many expectations. And I'll, you know, just say like you being a black man, there's so many expectations put
Yeah.
upon you about what being a man is.
God,
Um,
it's weird. I'm like, fuck, I'm just Gabe. And about this, I love that this is like Balvin Bronze Hours. I've had a lot of deep conversations with that dude that made me realize like people that I've known for years does not mean that they know me, does not mean that they get me, does not mean they've made an effort to. But like some of the conversations I've had with him, I remember like he called me up like late a while ago, was like, yo, you got a little bit of time to talk. We just talked about this like incredibly heavy important topic that he just wanted someone else's perspective on. And like it was a conversation where someone's like, I'm not trying to just feel good about myself. I genuinely need someone to tell me what they think and with no bias. And I'm like, that I wish to God I had met more people like that in my life to realize that I could just have conversations. Because also I used to be terrified to like talk to like or like show intimacy or like kindness to other dudes because I used to get shit for it so
yeah,
much. Oh my God, I hated
yeah,
it. Like
I
the
totally
the
get that.
concept that intimate and like the idea that intimacy has to be a romantic thing every time is also such
It
bullshit.
doesn't. It doesn't.
Ah,
Yeah, there's so, and I, you know, I've seen the best and worst of that, especially when I was in the Marine Corps. It's like these hyper masculine guys, but then like they're literally like they jokingly cuddle. You know what I mean? Like they
yes.
jokingly, and they will never admit that they actually enjoy it, but like they
Yep.
100% they're doing some homoerotic stuff. Like
Yep.
they're doing some stuff that would not be considered to be traditional, but it's okay because we're wearing boot bands, or like the you know, we've got our combat boots on. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like the juxtaposition of like being so afraid of being called like the F word, or like being
Yep.
seen as like less than, and then it's like this hyper desire for that real connection with another man. And
Yep.
it's so it's unfortunately or fortunately I'm not in that environment anymore, and of course like I've since changed my gender and then like
Yep.
all this other
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But like yeah,
That's
it's
cheating,
I
Friday.
genuinely, don't recommend you change your gender unless it's right for you. It's not for everybody. I don't recommend it for people who don't want like to suddenly be like hot and bothered and like starts fucking sweating when they start are talking to people that they're like even
Bodies are
vaguely
so
attracted
weird.
to. Yeah. That's one
Bodies
thing
are
that's happened to me. Like I actually had like a bisexual
really.
panic attack, and like I never used to feel this way about, like, I've always been bisexual, but like
Yeah.
I never used to like recognize it or like sort of like internalize it. But now that I have accepted that I'm like attracted to men, when I like really connect with a man, I start to get really hot and like
Yeah.
literally hot and bothered because like
Ah.
I have like it's a real thing. It's a real
Yeah.
thing. And I was the first time it happened, I was freaking out. I was just like, what the fuck is my body doing? I don't understand what this is. What is this?
Yeah.
And then but yeah, since then I've like, you know, started to regulate it a little bit better. But like
Wow.
yeah, it's just one of those things where instead of being what everyone, including like members of my family and like society want me to be, I'm gonna just be me. And I
Oh
know
yeah.
that I personally am a bit of a drama queen. I'm okay with that. That's who I am. And
Yeah.
the people who love me and accept me for who I am also like that about me as well. And and that's what's important. Like I know that I can be that way. I know I can freak out a little bit so that like when I need someone, just like, Balvin has come to you and I really want to discuss things in that way, I find someone that I connect with and who wants to share that with me, and then I do that for them in exchange. And it's like this symbiotic relationship that we can have with two people, and it doesn't have to be romantic. Like, it's wonderful. I love queer connections like that. What you and Balvin have is queer, by the way. I don't know.
Hey,
You can break it to
I,
him.
I look. If he hasn't accepted it, he'll have to look. He'll have to find out on the podcast. Not sorry,
Yeah.
buddy. I'm gonna send him a link
Yeah.
and be like, "Yo, Balvin, go to this timestamp right here. Actually, just start listening from here. You'll understand."
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so beautiful. I'm just so happy, and I had a little bit of my I was involved a little bit with Shikar season 2
Yeah,
in
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
helping find the musician and like the graphic designer for that
You did
season.
a great job.
And I didn't do any of the work. I was just I was the email
Hell yeah,
person.
that still
But
helps. I
but
hate emails.
so I'm very proud to have been at least peripherally involved, not in any of the production, but like just being around and like being a support person, which I think a lot of productions really need. There being a producer, I was not a producer for the show, but like that producer type role and like that assistant role, or being that person that sort of makes things happen. That is definitely an undersung role within the actual play space. Because like there's not a lot of money in the space. So like hiring someone full time to do that is kind of difficult, but in a number of other reasons. Have you thought about doing that yourself, or like doing any bit of production, or is that something you're not interested in?
I definitely, I like doing production stuff, and I definitely need an assistant for that. This is a great segue. The person that I originally hired to be my production assistant is now my co-owner of the Mythic Grove Productions.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Elise I had originally hired to help me out as like a production assistant, and then just managing like emails and like
yeah.
organization. And then I'm like, damn, she's good at this. And now we just run a business together.
Yeah, honestly, on your Twitter, so tall and so mad. How tall is Elise?
Like 6'2".
What?
I
Okay,
know.
okay, doesn't look that tall, but is
I
okay.
I
Yeah,
know Friday.
it's how tall are you?
I looked up. I'm 5'8".
Oh, okay, okay.
So I'm like, wait a second. Like just looking up. Hold the fuck up. What you mean? I
Did
was
she bully you?
no, she didn't. And I think that almost made it worse. Cause she was kind of like, I know. I'm like, okay, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything yet. How you know? Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, let's talk about Mythic Grove.
Hell
What's your
yeah.
experience been? When did you get it going? How did it get going? You mentioned a little bit about like the production assistant thing. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. How did that start?
Mythic Grove was an idea that I had like 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, like everything else in my life because I'm bad with time. And I just wanted, I was like, there's all these companies that have names and presences. It was when more of my career was going in a bigger way and going in a good way. And I remember being like thinking like, I don't need my face to be at the forefront of everything that I'm doing. I want to make things. I want to work on things. I want to work with people. But I don't need it to be. It doesn't need to be Gabe's thing. I want it to be like a thing that Gabe is involved with. And I'm like, I came up with a bunch of different names, and I was like, well, I don't want it to just be like fantasy. And I was like, well, maybe something about like mythos. And I'm like, oh, but I'm a forest boy. So I'm like, okay, but what if there's a mythic grove where like stories tell, or where mythical creatures of all shapes, sizes, and sorts appear and congregate into one place. And so I started like using that name for like just like overarching idea for what I was doing with these projects. And then eventually like I got in touch with Elise and we were talking, and Elise was like helping me like organize some of my emails. And then Elise had talked to me about like the process of like putting together an LLC. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, it's probably, and like talking to you like the benefit of like taxes and stuff like that. And she had been going through it so well that I was like, this is, we could do this. Like this is a thing that we could do. So we put this company together. We talked about what are the things that we want to make. Like for lack of a better, it was like things. We really like Elise has a history in film and costuming, and I have like most of my experience in like design and voiceover and editing. And so we have like and she's incredible at business strategy, marketing, accounting, shit like that. So we had a really like wide net of skills across that sense to do as much as we wanted to. So when it comes to like a sponsored cosplay like that was for Ukatoa, or putting together like the concept and pitch stuff for Session Zero, the Session Zero system, and writing out like I did. And like I love writing, and I can write all day, and I can write way more words. I can write an amount of words that I will not say out loud, because if I say that I can do that many words in a day, some companies will look at me weird saying, Gabe, it's less than you said for us. But I can write words like a mad rabbit. She is so great at like formatting and putting it into like a really good published sense that when we started just like putting things together, it was just so much easier, like getting things out on like itch, or getting things out on like drive through and DMs Guild. And it just became a fun process where like talking with this person wasn't taxing. We could talk multiple times a week, respect each other's space. And there was also the point of like I had a really good conversation with her that I was like, I'm aware of the presence that I have in the space, and I want you to do more of these things like yourself directly, because I don't want people to introduce you as my business partner. I want you people to introduce you as I'm Elise. And then you choose to say if you have any relation to me or like Mythic Grove or anything like that, because I don't ever want someone that I work with to be overshadowed by anything that I do, whether intentionally or not. But we ran our first Kickstarter for the Session Zero system, which is like a story based storytelling game that is system agnostic. So you can do it for like D&D or Pathfinder or Cypher system. And like this version, I say version loosely, is focused around fantasy, but there are intentionally designed like representation of more diverse character types, whether that's physically or like visual appearance. There are dozens of queer relationships that are presented in the cards, and it was intentionally designed to be accessible for newcomers, because there's a lot of really good storytelling tools, but they're also still pretty crunchy. Newcomers to tabletop don't necessarily know how to use crunchy tools, and it's to no fault of their own. They might love some more of those tools in ways that like the Session Zero system doesn't fulfill that. I wanted to make something that like if I was trying to help my mother who's never played tabletop games make a character, this is a like series of prompts and questions that could guide her through it, and then figure out how to connect that character that she made by using the way the game plays to someone else's. And it was the first Kickstarter that we ran. We raised over $150,000. We're being published by GPI, which is a huge deal. And we are like still on track for everything that needs to get sent out. We might be able to actually like ship things early, like knock on wood, intentionally plan some extra time. It was an interesting experience, because like it was a game that when I'd been like, it's another one of my infamous random tweets on Twitter that went widespread enough that people were like, Gabe, you should make this thing. I'm like, all right, dang, I'll make it. I had a company reach out to me telling me that they would publish it for me if I wanted to make it with them. And I had a conversation with them, and I'm like, all right, yeah, we can talk about it. And they offered me $12,000 for the year. They said I would make $12,000 in royalties, and that's all that they were estimating for this project. And that was one of the biggest points where I was like, I'm not going to just keep saying yes to something that I'm passionate about, something that I care about. I don't want to give up and the ability to influence something that I really, really care about, that I didn't want to make this thing to make money. I wanted to make this thing because I wanted it to be helpful for people to play more games and be more engaged with. And so the fact that like the Kickstarter made $150,000 plus was like mind blowing, and it really set the precedent. It really also, it was really one of those other points where I was like, damn, maybe I can do this. Like maybe with these people that I know, with these people that I'm working with these people that I'm talking to, with this foundation and network I've built, I can do this.
That's
Ooh.
what a liberating feeling. How did you feel when you hit day one and then it was working?
I cried so much. I was like, I just like went outside and sat in a tree, as
In a
I do.
tree? What a
Yeah.
gay thing! You climbed up in a tree and you're like, I need to be away from humans.
I was like, okay, I just don't want to touch the ground. Ah, this is better. And I'm like, I could fall. Nah, I'll be fine. And I was just like, wow, kind of like that, kind of like speechless. Like it's, I can make these things. I can be excited about these things. I work hard for what I do, and I'm grateful for what I have, and I still have so much more than I need to get done anyways. Like I've never felt like people need to support me for the things that I do. I'm grateful that people do, but like I don't think I've ever been able to go into something like, are gonna buy this thing because it's the greatest thing that I've done. And like I deserve these people's money. I was more like, this is scary. I'm really excited about this thing, and I hope that people like it. And like you said, it was liberating, because it was like liberating and validating, and that people did, and people were excited, and people do. And I can make something without sacrificing my beliefs. I can make something without sacrificing quality. I can make something on a bigger scale and like quote unquote charge more, so that the quality of life of everyone working on this like gets paid a better rate. Like we talked with the artist about like, okay, like when the Kickstarter is funded, like you get a percentage of what the Kickstarter's result is, because it was important to pay someone for their time who was making an effort to really fit in some of this stuff, or like putting in extra, like putting in a higher number so that we had so much budget for something that we hadn't accounted for yet. Like making a Kickstarter when there's, if you don't have like an extra $10,000-$15,000 for something that might cost $10,000-$15,000 on the line, then it's just coming out of what you had. But we built in an intentional buffer zone, so that like without even knowing how much editing might be or how much like play testing might cost, we knew that we had enough to cover that and still be able to make some money outside of it. And that was the wildest thing. I think after session 0, I had for my personal cut, that was the first time I'd ever had that much money in my bank account
Yeah.
ever in my life at one time.
Yeah.
Like we're like, if my cut was between
You don't
twenty
have to say
thousand
it if you don't want.
dollars. Yeah, it was
No.
between 20,000 and 60,000. I'll say that the amount that I had was like I that amount was the most money I've ever had in my bank account at one time, and then not like have to like burn through it to like pay my bills and shit like that.
Yeah.
And that really hit a point. It also maybe was like, okay, like I can do things like this occasionally. I don't being rich sounds dope. This is a rich life. I'm happy. I can pay
Yeah.
my bills. I can do the stuff. It was a game that still has so many more places that it can go. Seeing people get excited about stuff. It's not something that wasn't D&D. It's scary, because everyone's like, well, if it's not D&D, it's not gonna do well. Well, if it's not like 5e, then like it's not gonna hit as much of an audience. The people who told me that have gotten real.
Yeah, oh gosh, you're making me tear up. It's not about making a ton of money. It's about making enough. That's it.
Yeah,
It's about making
yeah,
enough and being
yeah,
able to pursue the things that you want to pursue. And
yeah,
these people who are supporting these indie projects like this, I mean, I'll say thank you so much for supporting projects like Gabe's and
yeah,
some of these other projects coming through on Kickstarter. And the goal is not to get rich, it's to make enough to be able to really make maybe 2 or 3, sometimes only one thing a year, and like
yeah,
have that thing be incredible, because I've spent the whole year making it. Like I
yeah,
have been able to focus on my passion for this game that's
yeah,
going to help create these great experiences for so many other people. And that's what this industry at its core should be, or feels like it should be, in a dream, right?
Yeah.
That dream genuinely becomes a reality when we look at crowdfunding.
It does. And I had a personal cap. I don't think this is something that people should necessarily do. This is just something that I did.
Hmm.
I had a personal cap on how much I was going to take from the, so I had a percentage that I was directly getting from the Kickstarter, but I had a personal cap of like up to this much, because if it went over that, I was like, I'd rather just leave that in the company so that I can pay more people to do things like
Yeah.
a certain amount of money after that point. Like, I don't need that right now. I don't need that in my bank account at this point. If I had like investor like pull something from in an emergency, that's a different sense. But like right now, and still, I don't need all of that that's available. I'd rather that be there so we can pay people to do things, so we can hire people to do things. And if it's like, oh my God, this idea is a great thing, or like this is an event that's really important to be to, having company budget to do things like that rather than just like money in my pocket. Because I don't, I spend money spontaneously, but it's on like Steam games. DoorDash are probably, I think, the most expensive things that I spend
Yeah.
money on. I don't spend that much money otherwise. I get my parents money, but like they don't
Yeah.
ask for it. They just work too hard.
Yeah, I know you don't spend money
Um,
on a gym membership, so.
sure as hell don't. And my complex has a built-in gym, so I still my complex has a sauna. It's wild. I don't know if it works. I've never seen anyone in there. I don't want,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna use my apartment complex's sauna because like
Yeah, putting your bare ass on there, like.
to talk to me about the weather. No, Carl, we're not gonna have this conversation. You're naked. I'm naked. We can just sweat separately. No talking.
Yeah, sweat separately.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, I'm very interested in like the future of tabletop in the next few years. Granted, we
I'm
have
ready
like
for it.
like a lot of things on the horizon that are kind of both scary and different, and we'll have to figure them out. They're their own unique challenges, like AI. And I know that some
Yeah,
companies have come out with pretty strong stances against it, which is great because
yeah,
what inevitably, like that's a race to the bottom
yeah,
for a lot of this creative stuff. It's like, we can, instead of paying people a living wage, we can just have one person use this program
yeah,
to 10x their output. That's not
yeah.
what this should be about.
I saw a game on Steam that was literally just like Fire Emblem with AI art, and I'm like, that's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I this industry is gonna have it's gonna have a hard time. And I think
yeah,
a big part of what's going to come down to it is the relationships individuals have built, because people will want to support a person oftentimes more than a company on an individual scale, or like at least in a greater support. Like people might spend more money on a company, but this person has a greater level of support even from like a handful of individuals, like vice versa. And I think we'll also see a surge of, or if not, then I'm just gonna monopolize it and y'all scrubs can catch up. Solo games. Solo games we see on like itch.io and such, in not so much a small sense, but not as heavily saturation as heavy of a saturation as I think it could be, because solo games are in many ways how you engage new people into this industry. People can learn how to play a tabletop game by themselves, which means they like, if someone knew how to play a solo game by themselves and that was their first experience, learning how to play a game with other people is probably easier. Learning how to run a game for other people is probably easier when the only person that you have to keep track of is yourself. I like Thousand Year Old Vampire is one of the coolest freaking books that I've read. I have read through it, and the thing is, I don't play that game right, and I know I don't play that game right, but
yeah,
I'm still having a great time. And since it's a solo game, no one can tell me I'm playing it wrong. So
yeah,
more games like that, more experiences like that, there's a market for it. There's a reason that people loved the choose your own adventure games. People loved those series. People loved those games. Those are popular. We live in a
hmm,
digital age. Do that and just add dice, baby. I'll pay for it.
absolutely, absolutely. Wait, you wrote on Darkhold: Secrets of Zentarum? Do you have a working relationship with Kiana Shaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's my co-creator for two of my projects coming up.
Hell yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
even in the Sessions Zero, we shout out the Canna's work on the safety toolkit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it was that was another thing where it was like this thing is dope. Go look at this thing. Like we have
Yeah.
examples of other ones, but also still go look at this thing.
Yeah.
Damn, I forgot I worked on that. See, this is why. This is why. So someone needs to tell me what did I work on? There was like a what's his name? God, D&D people are going to slay me for this. It's a really scary wizard man that had clones.
Oh, starts with an M.
Yes.
It's from it's from the Waterdeep adventure. They put him in the Waterdeep adventure.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I can look it up real quick because I we were just talking about this adventure actually because we
I'm so
are
sorry.
no, you're good.
No, that's
No.
Skyrim.
No. So we were just talking about this adventure actually because we are splitting off. Where's Dragon Heist? God. Oh, there it is. We are splitting off. Monsoon.
Monsoon.
Monsoon. Yeah. Monsoon.
Yes.
Monsoon.
I don't
Wait,
know
hold
his
on.
name.
Let me find.
I'm the
He's not
worst.
listed in the. I'm gonna have to actually find him.
It's
I
Manshon.
Let me go to the stat
Zentarium
blocks.
Monsoon.
Merch. Maloon. War Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Maloon. No, that's not it.
I think it is. I think it is Manchun, the founder of the Zentarium,
Yeah.
also known as the Black Network, until he was slain by Fizul Shembr, his ally, and Lord Oog. I can't say these names fucking right.
No, that's fine. That you did it perfectly well. Like that's the you even had the voice on it. That was good. But for yeah, a lot of these sort of creations and like a lot of these projects like and what you're talking that resonated me so much with me, you talking about your relationship with like Elise and like this relationship that I've developed with Kiana over this past year. There are some people you just like you start working with them and you just gel really well and you like talking to each other and then you like creating together, and that is something that is very unique to the space of just being a creator in a collaborative environment like this and creating games. That's just really cool and unique, and Kiana is definitely that person for me. So they're my co-creator for our romance, our GM romance guidebook. We're developing a how to GM romance book for later this year on Kickstarter, and then we're splitting off the Vineyard RPG book into we're putting the adventures in a separate book, and we're doing that separately. So we're going to be writing a good chunk of that, and then
I prefer that. And I don't know when I had this conversation. It was within the last month. Do not actively want all of my stuff in one book anymore because if it's not intimidating, it becomes heavier to carry around. But also in such a digital age, when I like have so many of my books on a PDF or something, a 20-page PDF to read through versus a 60-page PDF, it is so different. And there are times when I only need an adventure open or like I only need rules open, and I don't know when it hit, but at some point I was like, I do like I've seen the books that are like, here's all the character options and the classes, and here's an adventure, and also here's the monster manual, and it's in one book, and that's dope. And it's like a massive book, but then it's too much for me to
yeah,
like sit there and get through it. And like sometimes I'm like, I just want to read the creatures, but I have to take the whole book with me to do it. Or I just
yeah,
want to look at the options. I need the whole book, and maybe even like having that option where people can do it. Some people like that, but I am glad that it's like split up a little bit. So now that I can get more of that, because I look some days I wish D&D just put out like a $5 PDF or something that was like, here's a new class and that's it, instead of like,
yeah,
here's a new class and a whole book around it. I'm like,
yeah.
I just wanted the dancing rogue.
Yeah, yeah, little known option actually, not that I want people to go spend money on D&D Beyond, but you can buy just an individual class on D&D Beyond.
Which is like mind blowing and one of the best things I think that they've done for it.
Yeah, definitely that is it's a great feature. The problem being normally that like normally in order to buy the class you've already read the class somewhere. So it's like,
That's
it's
true.
yeah, it's like one of those things. Yeah, the MCDM did that as well, just for like they just put out the Ill Rigger. They just put out a class. So that's kind of
Yeah,
interesting and
that's
fun.
right.
Yeah. But
Audiobook is cool.
yeah, I'm excited moving into like this next block of time in my career. We'll see how the first day. I'm gonna be high the entire first day. So if you contact me on the start of the Kickstarter, or you have contacted me in the past on the first day of my Kickstarter, and it wasn't to console me because it's tanking, but you've contacted me to congratulate me, I'll either be crying for good reasons or bad reasons, and I
Oh
will be
yeah.
high most of the time, the
Hell yeah.
entire day. It's actually our launch day falls in the dreaded WotC Summit. The
Oh yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
in
yeah.
I live in this area, so like I just sent messages to people and I was like, hey, so I'm in the area if you want to come hang out. We're launching our Kickstarter that day. I mean, like later, I don't know what you're doing, but like, I'm gonna be out with
You're gonna
my lead people, Nat and M, so that'll be super cool. I'm looking forward to that aspect of it, and just like I've actually never met M in person before. I'm really excited to meet M.
wild.
I really like M, and I just, for whatever reason, we just have not been able to meet up and like sort of have that friendly moment between us. Been working with them for like 2 years now, but yeah, I am really excited for the next year for us and like putting together these projects, finishing the book, putting it out, and having for what people think. I've started to playtest the adventure that is going to come with the book. We're only going to include one adventure. I'm the writer for it. And we have also VJ Harris and Nat Kryman and Kiana Shaw, who developed The Confessor. And then we have wonderful art by Yorsi Hernandez. And then we have editing going to be done by Irf, and developmental editing by Nat Kryman and also M. Ebel. And then, am I forgetting anybody? Oh God, oh God, oh God. Venitus Maps is going to be developing the VTT maps, and also a side view of the tower. So by now, people will have played this.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it'll be 35 pages on the PDF. It's dropping on the first day. Hopefully, people like it. We'll see. The dossier itself is going to be 6 to 10 pages. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then the adventure itself is going to be 25 pages. And then we're going to have about 5 pages
It's not
of
bad
maps.
at all.
Yeah, so I think the adventure altogether, including stat blocks, is about 10,000 words. I wrote about 7,000 of it for like the adventure itself. But
Damn, girl.
yeah, I'm sorry. This is not an advertisement for the adventure that you can get now, but if you want to, you can probably find the adventure available because it's free to download if you are thinking about whether or not you want to buy the Vineyard RPG, which Gabe is a contributor on as well. And then also, if you want to, support the team, one of the things that I'm looking at doing, we'll see how it works out as far as like pay. One of the things that I have tried to do as much as possible is I want to pay people good rates, and then also I want to pay royalties, and that's just a conversation I had with Charlie, who's the senior editor at Polygon, because I will be in Polygon, I guess, which everybody will know by now by the time this podcast comes out, which I'm like
Charlie
super
Hall,
excited
right?
about. Yeah, Charlie Hall.
Charlie's
Yeah.
great. I love Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie's so enthusiastic. I love Charlie. But it's just weird to think like that I'm gonna be in Polygon. Okay, like
that weirdness never goes away.
it's like
Congratulations, but it stays weird.
But yeah, so, and one of the things that I don't know what it is. I shouldn't share what Charlie said to me privately. Never mind. But one of the things that, yeah, I was just thinking about it. It's like, oh yeah, he's reported. Maybe he said some of that stuff in confidence to me. But anyway, or a journalist. But one of the things that I'm super excited about is paying people enough so that they don't have to take a gazillion projects. And that is like one of the things that I was really surprised by when I first came into the industry. And I was like, okay, who's paying what and what are the rates? And then I heard such very disparate things. It's like I heard everything from like, I heard everything from like 8 to 12 cents a word. And I was just like, okay, so how many words do you need to write to make a living wage? And I did the math on that and I was just like, holy fuck. Like you have
books and books and books.
I was just like, what the fuck? Is everybody Stephen King? Is everybody like writing like books on books on books? Like, what the fuck? Like, how is this? So nobody makes money. And then I run into these freelancers like Brian Cortijo, who's been in the industry for 20 years. And there's a reason why Brian Cortijo does not work full time in games. It's not affordable to support a family. It's not possible. It makes me wonder, like, what is it that we have to do as an industry to get people paid more? Well, part of that that, in my opinion, is expectation. The expectation up front for the vineyard is like, you can get the early bird prices, like if you support the Kickstarter right away, or you can pay the normal price. And the normal price for me is $65 hardcover, because like, how am I going to pay people with less than that? And then like, it's going to be a $45 PDF or a $40, I can't remember what I decided on, and that's because I want people to get paid, and I want people to be able to do less projects so that they make better work on the projects that they actually are passionate about. And that's moving
That's
forward, I think, where the
hugely
industry needs
important.
to go.
It's a stand. Well, yeah, the industry at this state really does take advantage of a lot of people's need for anything, and their need
Hmm.
for anything makes people undercut them. And when you undercut people and do it consistently, then it just creates a really, really bad standard. I know that part of the reason people gaze upon any successes that I've had and like sustainability is just because it's like, how did Gabe manage to be so sustainable in a situation that's often not? I didn't realize how uncanny and uncommon that was, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
It's upsetting. It's like you have these people who have spent, in the case of like, for instance, I was just talking to Yorsi, who's our painter who does our portraits, beautiful portrait work. I'm so excited for people to see it. Every person that's looked at like this art from Yorsi is just like, this is the most eye-catching, stunning shit I've ever seen. Like, I cannot look away. And it's like, this person worked for 10 to 12 years being a painter to get to here. Why shouldn't they make a living wage? Like, this is something that is changing people's perspective and affecting them with their art. This is a professional.
Yeah, and a professional who's struggling in their profession to
Yeah.
make what they need to make, even after all this work. Like, and God, being an artist doing this stuff is just it's disheartening. I am so grateful to all the artists that I know who even make a little bit, but they do not make enough.
It's so difficult because people are so, I think, they look at creative works in games and leisure activities as something that is, of course, it's not necessary in their life, but okay, don't buy it. If you don't want to pay people a living wage, is the way that I look at it. Like, the reason why I am, we'll see how we do. And I have, been properly warned by a lot of people in the industry, like, hey, this might not work out because like you're charging more than people are used to paying. And that's the problem. The problem is there has been one or two people in the industry, and by people I mean companies, set the price at an unreasonable, unsustainable level for everyone else, because they are paying people an exposure and not a living wage. And therefore, like, how am I supposed to compete with that? I can't. I can't compete with, someone undercharging and undercutting their contributors in order to make this unreasonable $50 hardback cover price.
It's a fucking shame. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not reasonable, and like it takes all this extra communication and like almost like trying to teach your audience and your industry and the communities that are underlying in that industry. And teaching takes time, and teaching takes effort, and teaching is, and it's not always rewarding, and it's important, but it's so stressful because like you want everyone to be able to sustain themselves. You also are trying to fight against existences that will actively undermine that or work against it, because the way that they've done it is what sustains them.
They're worried about themselves and their company rather than the people who are making the products that draw the audience to them.
Yep.
It's predatory. It's
Yes.
unethical, I would say,
Yep.
in a lot of
Yes, it
ways.
is.
Instead of looking at your budget and saying, hey, I'm sorry, we can only pay this much, why don't you just take the extra time to be like, how can we make more so that we can pay people more? Why don't you just have that conversation instead? I think, in my opinion, and this is, I'm okay with, and part of this is me just understanding on some level, Gabe, I don't know anybody shit in this industry, and I never have, and I never
Yep.
will. And if
Yep.
people give me work, I'll be happy for it.
Yep.
But I've only been offered one gig in this industry. Well, actually, like, yeah, for writing, I've only been offered really like one gig. And at some level, I'm just like, okay, well, I don't need other people. I'll just fucking make it. You know what I mean? I'll just fucking do it. And part of the expectation is like that, unfortunately, freelancers are held in this disproportionate power relationship with these publishers and these companies to where they hold all the chips, because if you are deemed as a problem because you want to talk about wages and how you have been negatively affected by a company, you get blacklisted. That's why we should fucking unionize. Like, it was,
Oh
let me
yeah.
tell you, Gabe, my face I made when I found out that my artist rates were 4 times a well-known publisher's. I was just like, 4 times? 400% of what this global distributor is paying? Global? I run this shit out of my garage.
It truly is astounding how much indies pay more than certain corporate entities. I found out someone I hired for something. I was asking them, I'm like, what's your ideal? I have like this much, but I can try to flex, I can try to work around it. I was like, how do you normally do your rates? And they're like, well, I've been trying to do more per hour because that's more reasonable for me. So I paid them per hour, and then I found out that like after like around $500 of their like per hour rate, there was another company they were working for that was charging them $500. But it took them like twice the amount of hours that it would have taken if they were just going like by their hourly rate. So they should have made twice as much, but the company's like, nah, we're just gonna pay you per piece, regardless of how long it takes for these massive scale pieces. And the person was like, well, I had to say yes because it was the only work that I was getting in the past like month. And it was like it was for like $2,000-3,000 worth of work that if they were going by their hourly rate, they should have been paid like $5,000 for.
It's unfortunate. It's like it's frustrating. These companies have all the power when really in this sort of environment that we have now with new media, the power dynamic is about to change, thankfully.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think a lot of these indies that I see out there, like Banana Chan and Jion Shim, I'm very
Yeah.
interested. I'm so excited to talk to Banana Chan later in the week. Can you tell? Or is it later in the month? Is it in 2 weeks? Yeah, it'll be April 8th. I talked to Banana
Yeah.
Chan. So I'm really excited about that. I'll probably still be weepy from the Kickstarter, either good or bad. But and then I will probably, ask Banana Chan about their Kickstarter, experience. But anyway, sorry, distracted. Yeah, I am especially interested in crowdfunding. Not even like the Kickstarter crowdfunding. I'm talking about like itch.io or like whatever GoFundMe. Like you as a creator developing stuff, weird little things that you thought up at 2 a.m. and you put on Gremlin voice for TikTok, and then you're like, hey, that's actually a good game idea. I'm gonna develop this, and you just fucking put it out there, and then you build your audience that way, and you connect with people by creating stuff that
It's
you love to create, and then
I
eventually you're like,
yeah.
this is
But
something that I've put time into and I have developed and I've refined and I put real work into it. Will you please support this? And then eventually people will come around and like support you. And I really like that sort of business model, this
yeah.
creator business model that sort of emulates in some ways like YouTube or some of these other places where you just start as a hobbyist and then you develop it over time. And then eventually you're producing professional level work because you have worked on it.
Yeah, I remember that class module thing, what it was like ability and score increases by class, and I originally just put out one class, and people were like, "Oh, this is cool. I want to see more." And then I put out like three classes, and I'm like, "Here's an itch thing. I'm trying to figure this out." And then like I will never forget that like over a year span, the thing was like a pay what you want. It made $17,000, and I'm like, "What? Oh yeah. I'll send you all the statistics for it."
Oh
But like
my God.
that pay what you want thing on
Pay
itch
what
that
you
was
want?
yes,
Those
it
are
made
like criminally
yep.
underperforming.
I
Wow.
think
Because
it
if you
was
get
it
people not to
was
pay, they will not pay.
I think it was about like seven. It was around like 17,000 downloads. It made 17,000 plus dollars.
Holy
And the
shit.
thing was like only half the people that downloaded paid. So like
Oh my God.
9,000 people paid enough, and some people paid like $1. Some people paid like
Yeah.
$200. I was really excited about it. I was posting about it like every like couple weeks as I was updating it.
Yeah.
And the thing that was wild was like, and even though it was pay what you want, some people who bought it once bought it again when I had updated it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, for real?
Yeah.
Which is another aspect of why I've always been like, just like if you're nervous and you're excited, but you're excited, like put it out there. The people who are excited about it will be excited about it. The people who want to give you a hard time are envious or jealous, or they just want to say something, or they're
Yeah.
like maybe they have a similar idea, but it's like it's okay if someone else has a similar idea because no one's going to make your idea the way you would.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like at the same time, this is something I actually learned from Jasmine going full circle too. My just all the fucking golden nuggets that I got just from being in Jasmine's like sphere for a short while. I was talking to her about some business thing, and she was like, "Hey, Friday, I got to tell you something. Hey, you're worried about what everybody else is fucking doing. You need to be worried about what you're doing." And I was just like, "God damn it, Jasmine, you're so fucking right."
Yep.
Like, and I was just like,
Yep.
"You're worried." Yeah, she was so fucking right because like because I was like kind of wrapped up into, and you know how TTRPG Twitter is. I was kind of wrapped up
Ooh.
into that aspect of like, what's everybody doing? Am I going to produce something that's similar? And then Jasmine was like, just do it.
Fucking
Actually,
do
did
it.
I ever tell you that the vineyard started because Jasmine told me to do it?
Yes. Yeah. I
Okay,
remember that
okay.
conversation. I do
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
that. And I'm glad. So I was
Yeah.
like, just make the fucking thing.
I remember like bringing it up and I was like asking because we were talking about because I was just kind of asking her advice and I waited a little while when I was working for her. I waited like 3 months to ask this question, but even though I wanted to ask her right away, I was like, can I do to create writing opportunities for myself? And I was like, I have this project, but I don't
Mm.
know like what to do about it. And then she was like, hey, you're pretty good at project management. Just start it. And then I was like, okay. And then I sent emails to a bunch of people, yourself included, and I was very surprised that so many people wanted to
Said
participate.
yes. Friday.
So
People were just saying yes.
it's wild. I'm still blown away by that. I'm still blown away that I got so much support from all of our contributors, and thank you.
You know what? That maybe that also relates. I think we are more blown away by people supporting us than people looking at us are, because people perceiving us see how hard we work or like recognize the time and effort that goes into it, and it's like, wow, like why did all these people say yes? And versus the people on the other side are like, yeah, you know what? I get why all these people said yes. Looking at the person that like they're working with.
Yeah, and at the same time, like every once in a while, like just when I think I've like crested the hill or I've like made it, I get humbled, but which is
Yep.
good. Which is
That's
good.
true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Like yeah, I just have so many times that happening, especially as a pro GM and I'm like just dealing with regular people and like sometimes, I get some feedback where I'm just like, okay, that's whack. Obviously I'm not the table for you, but like and that's the thing, like and some people like stress about like, hey, I don't think I'm good enough to be a pro GM, and I'm just like, hey, you don't gotta be like you don't gotta be like a Jasmine or a Gabe Hicks or like a Matthew Mercer or a Brennan. You just gotta be good, and then you gotta be a good host, and then that's it. And then like regardless of
They'll
how
do the
good you are,
rest.
yeah, well, and also regardless, and it's something for creators as well. It's very similar. No matter what you do, there's gonna be people out there who don't like it. No matter what you do, you could be like and this is like when you look at like stuff that like especially like stuff that like for instance like Brennan or Matthew Mercer or like B. Dave Walters or like some of the other prominent storytellers in the space or like Jasmine or yourself, and it's some people just don't like you or don't like your storytelling or they just don't like there's nothing you can do about that unless you want to just build up this false persona and like just
Yeah.
destroy yourself from the inside of like wearing a mask constantly. But I'm all about people
I don't
demask.
need to be I never need to be the people storyteller. I just need to be my people storyteller. Yeah.
Fuck. Holy shit. That's I'm gonna be thinking about that. Oh fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, I think that's a really good note for us to leave it on. So let's wrap it
Oh
up
yeah.
here, Gabe.
This is
Do you have
fun.
anything? Yeah, this was great. This was a wonderful time. Do you wanna talk about anything that Mythic Grove is doing up in the future or you're doing up in the future?
Ooh, Mythic Grove will be testing by now actually probably a more podcast focused actual play with a little bit heavier editing to add like sound effects and diving into more genres, because I have seen I'm just saying, I have seen plenty of companies do different genres outside of fantasy pretty well, and I want to give them a challenge to see if they can do it better like I do.
That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Do we have a tentative like date of anything that you're going to be releasing or like you're going to start previewing?
There's gonna be a preview probably like mid-April.
Oh, so people
And
will have already seen it. Okay, okay, okay. Cool.
mid-April will probably be a preview, and then like an episode will probably release close to when this comes out. Probably like late May, an actual episode will be out. But it's like the first thing is heavily like Last of Us, Walking Dead inspired,
Oh,
where it
nice.
is like kind of like storytelling anthologies. People are either like, Gabe, you're a terrifying DM, or like, Gabe, you're like such a soft DM.
Neither.
Ooh. I'm gonna put the fear of God in them. And then after I do, make them realize in this world there is no God and there's only me. Like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
up, but I'm excited.
Yeah, that's super cool. And Gabe's links are in the description, so you can check out what Gabe is doing lately, or if you just want to lose some time looking at his TikTok, he's doing a
Hell
lot of
yeah.
stuff.
My
So,
TikTok is about to be so weird in the next couple days, like too. So this will have been months ago. So if you scroll back months and I see likes, I'm not gonna shame you. But yeah, now my TikTok about to get real weird. I've been like, it's been feral hours lately because I've been like, what if all of someone's bones were replaced by mimics? And like, what
uh,
if they just eventually like they just lost control of their own bones and they're walking somewhere but they don't know why? And then like their
oh.
fingernails open up to have teeth and it's just
Oh. And
yeah,
then
it's
like
not
they
good.
watch themselves eat someone. Oh my God. All right, we're
Yeah.
stopping the podcast right now. Hi, thanks for listening. If you want to support me, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/isfriday, or you can find some of the work that I'm doing at vineyardrpg.com if you want to pre-order the book that we made.